Hello, very good morning. Welcome along to Thursday's Ireland AM.
Yeah, it's fairly cold all over the country this morning. We've seen snow. We were looking at it in places like Westport, Limerick, in the Midlands as well, Laois Offaly. So do mind yourself on the roads if you are heading out.
Absolutely. First up this morning, stark warnings of risks to our economy, of course, as Trump's incoming Commerce Secretary wants to remove US investment here. We're going to talk all about that and the impact it could have on Ireland and the election cycle.
Yeah, ahead of the general election, we are continuing our chats with party leaders. Today sees the turn of Social Democrats Holly Cairns. If you have any questions, you can send them to us on 089 611 111.
Yeah, do get in touch with that. Plus, after 9, actor turned writer and good friend to the show, Simon Delaney, is back on his old stomping ground to chat about penning his first novel.
What cannot that man not do? Alan. He's done a book.
Mirren.
He's been in Panto. He's worked with greats.
He's directed my Panto. He's directed my Panto numerous times.
There you go.
There you go.
Where's your
men
book?
of many talents.
Where's your book?
No, come on, you've got to go first.
Now, also coming up on the show this morning, helpful hacks to heat your home at 7:45. Award-winning chef Mark Moriarty is going to be in the kitchen, and we'll be chatting to him also. Plus, ahead of the release of Wicked, that's why we're in our green this morning, we're here if the magical musical movie is enchanting or exhausting, because it is 2 hours and 41 minutes long. So we'll be chatting about that a little later on. Now, all this week, Virgin Media is turning Black Friday red, and to celebrate, they're giving us some fantastic prizes all week.
And 3 people have already won this week. Every day we are giving away a 4K smart television, an Xbox and a Samsung Galaxy phone.
So to be with a chance of winning, we want to hear the times you turned red. You know, those embarrassing moments that still make you blush? I think we've got too many to mention.
Every morning, yeah.
Every morning on the show?
10 what? What was it?
10 times, yeah.
10 times a week. Now, share your story along with your name and address to irelandamcomp@virginmedia.ie. Good luck, because somebody will win those fantastic prizes by the end of today's show.
Yeah,
and we've really enjoyed some of the stories we've had on.
So
they've been great, yeah.
Yeah, they've been absolutely amazing. So thank you for getting in contact. We'll be reading them throughout the show today, winner at the very end. But up next, why Trump's presidency could mean serious shocks for our economy.
Yeah, we're discussing that after this short break.
Time now to take a look at today's papers. We're starting with the Irish Independent. It reads, surge in house prices unlikely to ease soon. Experts have warned that house prices are unlikely to fall in the short term, despite the plethora of election promises. New figures show the cost of an average home jumped 10% in the year to September.
Step up to the plate on debate, Taoiseach, is the top story on the Daily Mail. Voters are being left shortchanged with only one three-way leaders' election debate on television after Fine Gael cited logistics as to why Simon Harris couldn't take part in a planned showdown.
The Star leads with That's Riot. A man has been jailed for 6 years for torching a Garda car and attacking a migrant centre in last year's Dublin riots.
The Herald also goes with that story, their headline, Scumbags. Rioters rage as he's jailed.
The Mirror's front page reads, farewell Liam. Former One Direction star Liam Payne, who died aged 31 last month, was laid to rest yesterday.
And the Sun's headline, all for one. Cheryl Tweedy led mourners at the funeral of her ex-partner Liam Payne. The pair share a 7-year-old son, Bear.
Now, a different story. The Irish Times reads, stark risk to economy detailed at Cabinet. The Cabinet has been given a stark warning about potentially damaging economic fallout for Ireland from the unsettled global situation and the return of Donald Trump to the White House in 2025.
Yes, that's also the top story on the Examiner. Micheál Martin, Trump's picks will hit our plans. Tánaiste Micheál Martin has said that the spending plans being sold to potential voters by political parties may all have to be revised thanks to Donald Trump's choices for his incoming cabinet.
Now, an awful lot of comments have been made. You might have seen it, and we'll take a look at the recent comments from Trump's incoming Commerce Secretary, Howard Lutnick, on Ireland's trade policies.
He's going to encourage people to build here and pay taxes. Let's go over what Apple does right now. Here's a simple example. They make the parts in China.
Yeah.
They put the parts together in Taiwan. Then they wave their magic wand and it floats over Ireland. Of course it floats over Ireland because that's where Apple does its products. And then it comes to America and they make, I don't know, something like 3% profit in America. They pay corporate tax on 3% profit in America. And Ireland announces a massive budget surplus for their 5 million people. Ha, ha. So it's just not true. So the concept is have them pay their taxes in America, and that is how you fix America.
Wow. So here to discuss the potential economic shocks of Trump's presidency is Daniel Murray, policy editor with the Business Post and economist and lecturer at TU Dublin, Dr. Emma Howard. Good morning.
Good morning,
to you both. Great to have you both with us. First of all, let's start off with who is Howard Lutnick, who has now been put into Donald Trump's presidency?
Yeah, Howard
Cabinet.
Lutnick, multi-billionaire businessman in the US, chief executive of Cantor Fitzgerald, the investment firm, and somebody who's had his eye on Ireland for quite some time, long before he was known to be one of Trump's picks. He's been a long-term supporter of Donald Trump and a big fundraiser for him, and as you've seen in that clip, he's somebody that really has a problem with the way Ireland carries out its business and the number of US firms here, big multinational US firms that are booking huge amounts of their revenues through Ireland. He has previously called out Ireland there. Just in the last couple of weeks, he tweeted that he was going to end the nonsense of Ireland running a trade surplus at the US's expense. He has now been picked as Donald Trump's Commerce Secretary, and the concerns here in Ireland are that could have a very real impact if he's to carry through on his plans on Ireland's trade surplus and on our corporate tax revenues, which all the parties are pitching their manifestos on.
You're writing about this, what this means, the trade surplus, what it means for our budget and the surpluses going forward this morning in the Business Post. But can we talk about those policies directly? So is it just going, we are going to lower the corporate tax rate in America, you can all come home? But if it's the same as Ireland, why would they bother moving? What else can they do?
Well, there's a couple of different policies, and it all depends on what Trump ends up doing, because what Trump says and what he does can be completely different things. But he has at one stage during the campaign pledged to lower the corporate tax rate in the US to 15%, which would put it on a par with Ireland.
Yeah.
If that was the case, then you could say that the tax advantage for Ireland disappears and US companies could move back. But it probably wouldn't be enough to see them all move back in one go. Probably bigger than that is the threat of tariffs. So Trump is threatening to put tariffs of between 10 and 20% on imports into the US, and even bigger tariffs on imports from China into the US. This is the kind of thing that the likes of Lutnick and the likes of Trump think could force US firms to move production back into the US, or at least they're hoping that it could force US firms to move production and move the revenues that they book back into the US, which is ultimately what he's looking to do. That would impact Ireland.
OK, so how will it impact Ireland, Emma? Because we're seeing Micheál Martin, we're seeing all these promises in the manifestos. But that could all have to change.
And I think it's good that at least they're raising it and considering it at this point, because all of those election manifestos are looking at cutting taxes, and our tax base in Ireland is already very narrow, and increasing spending. And we know that increases in spending over the last few years above that sustainable level year on year has added to inflation in Ireland. So, you know, prices for a typical household are about €1,000 higher for a yearly bill because of those inflationary spendings by the government.
And how much are Ireland benefiting from these multinationals?
So a huge amount. If you look at our where that public money comes from that the government are spending, €1 in every €4 now comes from foreign multinationals, and the vast majority of that is paid by American multinationals, 43% paid by 3.
Wow.
So we're very reliant on them for our public purse, but they also employ lots of highly paid people in Ireland. So although they account for only 20% of total employment, they pay a third of our wage bill. And that means, again, that a lot of those people are the 20% of people who are paying 80% of our income tax in Ireland. So if you look at those foreign multinationals, they are really accounting for a lot of employment, wages, and public spending in our economy.
We were just saying it's very interesting when you're looking at Trump's cabinet. It's all these people. No one's been voted on. He can just go pluck you out of someone and go, how are you? There you go. Off you go. Linda McMahon, take over. you know how to run the WWE, take over education. You know, we're all kind of watching this going, this is mad. But he has imposed tariffs before, and during his last time, Emma, he does do these things.
He did, and I think the fact that he's picked Lutnick for Commerce Secretary, which is the portfolio that looks at trade and tariffs in particular, is a strong signal that he intends to follow through on his tariff promises. At a rally in Madison Square Gardens, Lutnick was talking about making America great again. And when was America great again? He thinks at the turn of the century. 1900 was when America was great, when there was no income tax and all they had was tariffs. So he's a very strong proponent of tariffs, which signals that they might perhaps follow through on this and put those
50%
universal
of their
tariffs
population didn't have any rights. Great time to be alive in America.
But are we seeing a global shift potentially, Daniel? Because it is very... globalisation has been massive. People have been free trade movement. With this move by America looking after themselves and everybody siloing down, potentially the EU might have to do something similar, would they? Could this be a shift for the next 10, 20 years?
Yeah, I think it could be, and I think it's actually been underway for some time. I mean, the last Trump presidency arguably is when some of it started. Brexit could be included in that as well. COVID-19 resulted in a kind of a knee-jerk reaction to globalisation and people becoming more worried about their supply chains. Now we have Trump back in again, and already, even during the Biden term, there was the Inflation Reduction Act, which was about huge subsidies really being put into the US industry. And the EU is looking to respond more now as well. And one of the other big concerns across the EU now is that if we start to change state aid rules and big countries like Germany are able to support certain industries to try and attract them in retaliation to the US, the likes of Ireland will actually lose out because we don't have the same financial firepower. And we certainly won't if these corporate taxes disappear.
But are the EU potentially putting in tariffs as well on, say, like Chinese car makers as well, electric car makers, to try and protect their own car industry?
Exactly.
So they're kind of doing the same as well.
So, yeah, there's a little bit of that. And certainly if there are tariffs applied in the US, the EU will retaliate. And that's the counterproductive element of tariffs, right? Because studies in the US have shown that even with the partial retaliation by the EU, it'll wipe out 2/3 of the revenue that they get from tariffs. So really, those tariffs that he put in place in the first term have been shown to have had a negative effect on job growth and on industrial competitiveness. So they're really distortionary tax. They don't work well for the economy in which they're levied.
Ireland either.
But let's just reiterate that.
Yeah.
The tariffs that Trump put in during his first time, they took effect during Biden's administration. They were not good for the American economy. Biden got blamed for it.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Really quickly, because this is, we feel like a small cog, but we have been pointed out, we have been looked at, and we are EME bases for so many multinationals. The government have made an awful lot of promises in their election manifestos, and you have been writing about this today. If the corporate tax rate end up changing, right? If all of this changes, are we screwed?
Well, according to the manifesto commitments that are being made by the three main parties, so that being Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael and Sinn Féin, the three parties vying to lead the next government, if what are called windfall corporate taxes are stripped out, they all will run huge deficits in the coming years. And we've done the calculations, we revealed this in the Business Post this morning, on the basis of the parties' manifestos. Fianna Fáil will run a cumulative deficit, so this is over the next 5 to 6 years, of 56 billion. Fine Gael will run a cumulative deficit of 55 billion, and Sinn Féin, the largest of all, over 85 billion. So at the moment, they're all planning for surpluses in the years ahead, but those surpluses are based on these corporate tax revenues. The Department of Finance has defined about half of these revenues as windfall in nature. That means they can't be relied on, they might disappear. We're now seeing geopolitical changes that could see half of these corporate taxes disappear, and if that happens, these are the size of the deficits that will appear in all of the parties' manifestos.
Is it a tricky one for them for getting votes? Because it's not sexy to be saying that we're going to hold back money, be conservative. Like, it's a tough one for the politicians here because, like Micheál Martin said, we have to consider it, but this could be...
And we have all been shouting, spend the money, spend the money.
Yeah, no, it's a tough one to sell to the electorate. And, the problem is, and I think that's one of the reasons why Trump was re-elected is because he wasn't honest with the electorate. You know, when he talked about implementing tariffs, he said it's a tax on foreign producers. You know, it's going to be great for the economy, and people bought it. So there's a little bit of, I mean, my hope as an economist would be that a lot of this is vote-getting behaviour, and that whichever party leads the next coalition will be a little bit more responsible and fiscally prudent with our finances. But that remains to be
Emma,
seen.
will you be Commerce Secretary of the US? That'd be great. Should they can plug you from anywhere?
I would absolutely turn down that job.
You turn down that job. Not even if they gave you Elon Musk glasses.
Especially then.
Dr. Emma Howard, of course, economist and lecturer at TU Dublin, and Daniel Murray, policy editor with the Middle Business Post. You're going to stick with us, Daniel, to go through the other stories in the papers.
Guys, thanks so much. Really appreciate it. Making economics fun at this hour of the morning. These two are special, so they are. Still to come, we take you through the other stories making the headlines.
I see shortly.
Now, from house prices to pollution promises, we're taking you behind the headlines now.
Joining us, Daniel Murray, policy editor with the Business Post. You've stayed with us. Thank you, Daniel. And political editor with the Sunday Times, Hugh O'Connell. Good morning to you.
Morning, guys.
Hugh, listen, just give us a quick snapshot. It is general election season at the minute. It's all over a lot of the papers, particularly around the whole Apple tax and American Trump economics. What's the word on the street at the minute? How's it going?
Yeah, like all the manifestos are out now. I think AIM2 have still to publish theirs today, but all of the main party manifestos are out. And, you know, we're just discussing it off air. They're all promising huge amounts of spending over the next 5 years if they're in government. Now, what I would say about manifestos, which is really important, is it's really only important, I think, to look at them properly after the election in terms of government formation, because you're then looking to see what are the policies that they want to get into the programme for government. And the programme for government, there's no costings in the programme for government. It's a bunch of promises, a bunch of commitments that the government, whatever shape that is, pledges to get done over the next 5 years. But there's no underpinning finances behind it. They're just kind of generally reliant on the economic forecasts that have been put out pre-election, and the economic forecasts on which a lot of the political parties are basing their numbers on in this election. And you're hearing a lot of rows about kind of black holes in manifestos and Sinn Féin raiding the piggy bank and all these kind of things. That's kind of noise. I don't think voters should pay too much attention to that. I think
What should they pay attention to?
Very good question. They should pay attention to the issues that matter to them. So if they care about housing, they should be looking at the housing policy. And I know we're going to discuss housing in a minute. So they should be looking at individual housing policies and whether they, whether the party's commitments in those spaces stand up. And there's a very clear choice, I think, in this election, which effectively boils down to, do you want to continue on the path that the current government is pursuing in terms of these schemes like Help to Buy, First Home, that are getting some people on the housing ladder? Or do you feel so locked out of the housing market that you want to fundamentally shift housing policy in this country and go with someone like Owen O'Brien or the Social Democrat in Sinn Féin, or the Social Democrats or Labour, who are proposing a much greater involvement of the state
to
over
try
the next 5
something
years.
new. Exactly.
To try something new, exactly.
You mentioned there 0896 111 would like to get in contact. There was an attack ad that we've heard about yesterday. Fine Gael, don't let Sinn Féin raid the piggy bank, and they smashed open a poor little ceramic piggy bank, and it's all, this
Poor
is
pig.
terrible. The poor little piggy.
Yeah.
Come here to me, Daniel. Of course, it's all about policies, but an awful lot of you politicos and people at home are sometimes looking for the crack in the general election and who's going to be having a go off whom. It's been a bit... It's been a bit boring.
It's been a bit of a damp squib, and it's not only the political journos who think that, but a lot of the politicians who are out there are running as well. So it's been a little bit suppressed, and there's been a couple of moments. Michael O'Leary's comments early in the election kind of caught a bit of fire. Even the piggy bank stuff yesterday was an attempt to start.
It did feel like it was an attempt to put a rocket or something, and everyone at home was like,
the rocket just didn't ignite.
Yeah.
I don't think. Just interestingly, on that one point, I mean, that was an attack ad from Fine Gael saying that Sinn Féin would raid the piggy bank. What's interesting is that these holes in the manifestos, when you put that to Pascal Donoghue and to Jack Chambers in particular, their answer to that is, don't worry, we're going to build up 50 billion in the Future Ireland Fund by the end of the decade. Now, the Future Ireland Fund was never meant to be raided in the event of an economic downturn. They're now saying that's there as a buffer. So it sounds to me like they're going to smash their own piggy banks if things go south. But definitely it feels like things haven't taken off yet. There's kind of a cigarette paper between the three big parties, Sinn Féin, Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael. And don't forget, Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael have ruled out going into coalition with Sinn Féin, suggesting that the only coalition option that is still on the table on these polling numbers is Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael. That could actually prove problematic for them in the last week and a half if the electorate start to think, well, why don't we have a choice here?
I think this debate that's coming up next week between the three leaders, Micheál Martin, Simon Harris, Mary Lou McDonald, it's kind of the three potential Taoiseach after the next election. It's potentially very dangerous for Simon Harris and Micheál Martin because they looked like they were presenting a united front on the leaders' debate earlier this week, and obviously
standing beside each
draw,
other, even
put them standing beside each other, and it was a draw. They drew lots, so it was just totally random. But it did happen, and it very much looked like they were a unit, a team. And so put that unit and team in a situation where it's just them and Mary Lou McDonald, the contrast. And, you know, they want to be careful about things like looking like they're ganging up on Mary Lou McDonald and how that plays with voters at home. I think that could potentially shift the dynamic a bit in this election, potentially.
Very, very interesting. We'll be looking at that.
It's one to watch.
As you mentioned, it's on the front of the Irish Independent today. Surge in house prices unlikely to ease soon. It's jumped 10% is the average around the country that it's jumped since the start of the year until September. And of course, the government are talking to you about housing again, as Hugh said. It's up to you to look at their housing policies to see what's going on there. 0896 111 111. COP29, that's one thing, Daniel, that we haven't heard as much about as we normally would in other years. But firms' plastic pollution promise fails. This is in The Guardian today. What's this?
Yeah, story in The Guardian about a pledge that was made by a number of different companies to reduce the amount of plastic and to divert it from basically landfill and going into the environment. And in fact, they're after increasing the amount of plastic that they produce 1,000-fold instead over that period. So this is a lot of the big, what are effectively fossil fuel companies, the oil and gas companies.
ExxonMobil, Dow, Shell, Total Energies and Chevron Phillips, the world's biggest producers of plastic.
People tend to forget is they're plastic producers as well as fossil fuel producers, and the fossil fuels are the key ingredient that goes into producing those plastics. So look, it's another example, like COP29 is on over in Baku, all of the countries in the world getting together, trying to increase ambition and increase pledges, get action, and at the same time, emissions around the world continuing to rise, the amount of fossil fuels being used continuing to rise, and not really any progress on the ground being made despite all of the talk. You're right, there hasn't been as much talk about it this year here in Ireland. Ordinarily, we'd see the Taoiseach over there, we'd see the Taoiseach over there. The election has interfered with that. Eamon Ryan is still gone, mostly because he's not running again in the election. He probably would still be here.
There's nothing else to do.
He has nothing else to do.
Maybe looking for a new job over there. 1,000 times more plastic is insane, isn't it? And you're kind of thinking like they're all private jetting in and out. What is the point? Quickly, Hugh, some more topical news.
Hugh O'Connell.
Yes.
Laura Higgins is going into I'm a Celeb.
Yeah, I know who she is. I watched that Love Island.
And that's the end of what you did.
But it's interesting. I think she's quoted, in the Mirror today saying she's not necessarily going to be as feisty as she was in the Villa because she built that reputation in the Villa for being incredibly feisty. And
do you know she'd set the general election on fire?
Absolutely.
Maura Higgins, she'd be absolutely fantastic.
For a bit of escapism sometimes as well, whenever this is also dull, maybe sticking on a bit of I'm a Celeb, and you'd hope that Maura and Barry McGuigan are both in there.
And we're sticking with, very quickly, one other cultural story that we know that Daniel's mad about. Wicked. Yeah? Daniel's like, my kids are so small, I haven't gone to the cinema in years. So Wicked fans have a message to other moviegoers. Don't sing along in the cinema.
Yeah, don't sing along in the cinema. Apparently a lot of Wicked fans getting very annoyed at going into the cinema and people singing along. So Wicked obviously primarily was a musical that people go to the theatre to see. I haven't actually seen that either. It's now a movie, and while people maybe would be encouraged to sing along in the theatres, they're not being encouraged to sing along in movie theatres, which is maybe fair enough. I'd sing along with most movies anyway in the cinema. So
even if they're talking, you
had the Mamma Mia sing along as well. We want to know, of course, what your pet peeves in the cinema. People eating too loud, on their phone, whatever else. Shifting. I was going to say so. 0896
don't do it.
111 Daniel Murray, policy editor with the Business Post, and Hugh O'Connell, political editor with the Sunday Times.
They're so happy when they come in here. What we make them talk about. So happy. Thanks a million.
Now, a man who I'm sure sings along to Mamma Mia.
He thought.
Of course. Wicked. Did you sing along?
I was at the premiere last night and I was singing along quietly.
Okay.
Okay. Were
For
other
everyone
people
else.
singing along?
Yes, you could hear everybody singing.
Okay, there you go.
You're allowed to do it. Now, coming up, tips for tackling drafts and keeping your house cosy. We'll see in a few minutes. Now, we're certainly feeling the cold snap across the country with several snow and ice warnings in place this morning.
Forecaster with Met Éireann, Liz Coleman, has the update. Liz, thank you so much for joining us this morning. We really appreciate it. Can you bring us up to date on what areas have seen snowfall so far?
So definitely yesterday evening and overnight, there were substantial accumulations of snow in parts of Mayo and Galway. Now, the rain has moved further south and we're getting reports at the moment in the kind of Kerry, Cork, Tipperary area. We're getting a mix of sleet and snow and also of rainfall. So we're not through this yet. They're going to be continuing. That rain is going to continue to sink southwards through the morning. We have the warnings out until 12 noon today. And in behind that, much colder air. So temperatures dropping in behind that rain. So any precipitation that's fallen, be it rain, be it sleet, or be it snow, will probably freeze on impact and will remain in that form through the day today. So treacherous conditions still driving, probably especially on the commute home today across the country, where any of the precipitation on the roads will freeze or turn into ice.
Okay.
Continuing winter. Oh, sorry, go on. Yeah.
No, I was just wondering how long will this last? How long is this cold snap expected to last?
So it's going to be cold through the day today, overnight tonight, and for much of tomorrow too. But we will see wintry scattered showers coming into northern parts of the country through the day today and in the early parts of tomorrow, and then a total change in the weather for the weekend. So we're looking ahead to a low pressure system that's going to be tracking up the west of the country over the weekend. That's going to bring very windy and very wet weather and feeling milder again too, but a lot more weather still to come over the weekend.
Wow. And just in relation to that, Liz, as you mentioned just a few minutes ago, the weather warnings. What weather warnings are actually in place? There's a number of them, isn't there?
There is quite a number of them. So we have a low temperature warning, which is in place countrywide. And then we have various yellow snow warnings still in effect and orange snow warnings in parts of Munster really at the moment. It's still, the one for Galway is still there. Even though it's not snowing anymore in Galway, there are going to be tricky conditions with the cold temperatures coming in behind that. So we'll be looking into the warnings this morning as we have change of shift, so there will be updates through the day, so people should stay in contact with the forecast.
And Liz is like,
when I'm out the gaff. Liz, tell us, when you say an orange snow warning, how much snow are you expecting then if it's an orange snow warning?
So with the orange snow warnings, we can talk about it's really about the intensity and the short time period that we have. So maybe kind of 5 to 8 centimetres. But really, we need to move away from what the actual impact is, because we know in Ireland, we're not very good at coping with snow. So as little as 2 to 3 centimetres on the ground can have impacts. So really, if there's lying snow in the area, just people need to be aware that it's going to be freezing through the day today, overnight tonight. So they still need to be cautious on the roads.
Liz Carlin from Met Éireann, who's ready to be done, obviously, with her overnight shift. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. We really do appreciate that. And again, as Liz has just said, please do mind yourself on the roads, and has also given us a warning because there's going to be rain during the day, very cold temperatures when you're driving home
and then that
from
will
work.
turn to ice.
So if you don't need to work, maybe work from home. If you don't need to go into work,
Don't you be telling people not to go into work. There.
Just saying,
Miriam
if you can
O'Connell
work
and
from
RNDM
home.
said I didn't have to go into work.
If you can work from home. Now, we're going to move on to something that is adjacent to the cold snap with some top tips to keep heat indoors is DIY expert Ash O'Bukla. Good morning, Ash. Lovely to have you here.
Lovely to see you. So tell us, what are the main ways we lose heat in our house, especially? We've just noticed it was so mild and now it's so cold.
Yeah.
So where are we losing the heat in the house?
The main places that we lose heat in the home will be the chimneys and your attic or your roof area. So they're the two biggest game changers.
Okay.
In Ireland, we have a tendency to say, close the door, keep the heat in. But actually, your door isn't the biggest culprit in terms of heat. You should keep doors closed, but most of the heat on a general day-to-day basis is going out of your attic or chimneys.
Okay, well, there's a whole load of things that you have here. But
we can't insulate the chimneys ourselves today.
Yeah,
so let's see if we can do something else.
You are saying something about chimneys, but what could we do about a chimney if people have an old chimney in their house?
Yeah.
What can you do?
So in older houses, obviously for chimneys that aren't in use, would be the big thing to point out here, you can get a chimney balloon. So you literally pump this up. It does come with a pump. I just didn't want to put everything
So that
here.
just blows up like that, and you just...
You blow it up a little bit, and then you put it up into the chimney, and then you blow it up more, and it fills up all the gaps, obviously.
So this is when you're never going to light a fire again.
Exactly, yeah.
Yes.
For genuinely for chimneys that aren't being used, especially because it's see-through, you need to check. But what it does is it stops the cold air coming down, but more importantly, the heat going out.
So that's more effective than, like, as I would have done for years if you're at home, stuffing newspaper up the chimney.
Yeah, the problem with newspapers is obviously it can get loose and then it'll go out through the chimney, or it'll get stuck up there, which could cause a chimney fire later on. But also it gets damp. So the rain, you'll see it often in fires, the rain coming down a chimney, and you'll see it there on the hearth, the dots. This stops any damp coming in.
How much would this be?
So that is under €20.
Oh, well then, like the amount of, because it's 10 to 20% of heat is lost through a chimney. For less than €20, that's a really good investment.
Yeah, and it's called a chimney balloon, if anybody wants to look them up.
Chimney balloon.
Chimney
You can get it
balloon.
today. Okay, so doors and windows.
So doors and windows.
A cost-effective way.
Yeah, well, the best thing, these are all under €10, and they claim to save 35% of heat loss from that area. But your doors would be 5 to 10% of heat loss. Your windows can be a bit more, up to 15. So even if you've double glazed windows or old timber windows, you'll put your hand around it.
I know, you feel the draft.
You feel the draft, yeah. So these are really, really good. They're self-adhesive. That's a double, so you can literally tear that.
Yeah.
And you make sure the surface is clean and dry. Otherwise, you'll say, I keep sticking it up and it keeps coming down.
Yeah.
Now, you see, I've done this on the windows, and it does, after a while, it starts. So will you just take it all off and get new ones?
Start a new one. You just make sure the surface is clean and dry. So use a microfiber cloth, get it fully dry. Obviously, if it's a damp area, it's going to get wet. This will eventually
And where
come
do you
off.
just put it around all the edges?
On the inside of the frame. So if you get a lighter or a piece of tissue and put it around the window and see the flame flicker or the tissue move, you'll see that there's a draft. So there could be small gaps that you don't realise. So by putting this on the inside where the frame meets the window when it closes,
where you
you're
close
literally creating another seal. So that way then it seals up any of the little gaps that are letting the air in.
The problem is then when you're trying to, when you open the windows, then again, it sort of, it does
It can be a little bit sticky, but it might just be you have it in the wrong place.
I
So
probably
don't
do
put
have
it
it in the
on
wrong
the windows. Just put it on the frame instead.
God, workman blames his tools, my love. I hate to say it. I hate
If you
to
put
say
it on the inside
I
of the
probably do
frame.
have it in the
What
wrong
about the
place.
door?
So the door, it's the exact same
same.
thing again. Now for your front door, which again, getting back to that thing of keep the front door closed.
Yeah.
This is one that people forget, which is for your letterbox. So for the inside of your letterbox. So even if you've a brand new
if it's
front door
inside the
on the
house.
inside. So there's 4 screws. If you don't want to use screws, you can use self-adhesive double-sided tape.
Okay.
But you put that on the inside. So when the letters come through, they'll come through like that.
Yeah.
But you can see that gap. And again, when you walk past your front door, you'll feel the breeze and go, where is that coming from? That's a new door.
Okay.
Often it can be something as simple as that.
What about radiators? Because, like, I've done and known lots of people have done it. I've put covers on them to make them look a bit nicer.
Yeah.
And it is stopping some heat getting
It
out.
100% is, especially in people's hallways. They really want to see a radiator table when you come in. There's somewhere to put things, or a radiator cover, but you can get a thing called a radiator table, which I designed one and got a carpenter to do them. So it looks like a nice table, but it's only 2 legs at the front.
Yeah.
So your radiator is
You
open.
still have the whole heat
and you have
coming
the
out.
surface then to put your keys and all your bits and
We've
pieces.
heard this lots of times about putting the, like tin foil type of thing behind the radiator.
So this is reflective and it's really good. You just use double-sided tape or wallpaper glue to put it on. And what it does is it stops the heat going into the cold walls and it reflects it back onto the surface. So you simply just cut it, put double-sided tape or wallpaper and put it behind the radiator and it reflects it in. But for people who don't want to do DIY or don't even have money at the moment to buy all this, a simple thing to do is just pull the furniture away from radiators.
Yeah.
We love putting furniture against walls in Ireland. Mainly because we don't have space, but we do love it. But if you just move it even a few inches, if you don't have space to move it away completely,
Move it out.
Move it a few inches just to let the heat circulate that bit more in the room.
An awful lot of these are
doesn't it?
incredibly cost effective as well,
Yeah.
just to say. And
They
if
are.
you're kind of sitting there going, I don't even know how I would, manage to do this.
Yeah.
At Doing Up My Home.
That's it,
You
yeah.
have done all of these things on your Instagram page.
I have, yeah.
You
and
actually
in
have.
winter, I give tips then on how to keep cost-saving measures going.
I was lashing through it yesterday going,
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant,
so
yeah.
it's at Doing Up My Home. Ash Obuchala, thank you so much
Thank
for
you
joining
very
us
much for
this morning.
having
We
me.
really
That was
appreciate it.
great.
Thank you
Enjoyed
so
that.
much. Now, still to come, leader of the Social Democrats, Holly Cairns.
Plus, Chef Mark Moriarty stops by and we review Wicked the movie. See you in a few minutes.
time now to take a look at today's papers. We're starting with the Irish Independent. It reads, surge in house prices unlikely to ease soon. Experts have warned that house prices, they're unlikely to fall in the short term despite the plethora of election promises. New figures show the cost of an average home here jumped 10% in the year to September.
Step up to the plate on debate, Taoiseach, is the top story on the Daily Mail. Voters are being left shortchanged with only one three-way leaders election debate on television after Fine Gael cited logistics as to why Simon Harris couldn't take part in a planned showdown.
The Star leads with, that's riot. A man has been jailed for 6 years for torching a Garda car and attacking a migrant centre in last year's Dublin riots.
Yes, the Herald also goes with that story. Their headline, scumbags, rioters rage as he's jailed.
The Mirror's front page reads, farewell, Liam, former One Direction star Liam Payne. He died aged 31 last month. He was laid to rest yesterday.
The Sun's headline, all for one. Cheryl Tweedy led mourners at the funeral of her ex-partner Liam Payne. The pair share a 7-year-old son, Bear.
A different story on the front of the Irish Times. Its headline, stark risk to economy detailed at Cabinet. The Cabinet has been given a stark warning about potentially damaging economic fallout for Ireland from the unsettled global situation and the return of Donald Trump to the White House in 2025.
Yes, that's also the top story on the Examiner. Martin, Trump's picks will hit our plans. Taoiseach Micheál Martin has said that the spending plans being sold to potential voters by political parties may all have to be revised thanks to Donald Trump's choices for his incoming cabinet. Now, a quick reminder of our competition. Virgin Media is turning Black Friday red, and to celebrate, they've given us some incredible prizes. Look at those.
Yes, they certainly did. You could win a 4K Smart TV, Xbox, and a Samsung Galaxy phone every day this week. We had some very happy winners already.
Yeah, to be with the chance of winning, we want to hear the times you turned red. So lots of you are very happy to embarrass yourselves in order to get that great prize, which we love. We love.
Tell us about how you were embarrassed. And Tell in Kildare said, one of the most embarrassing things to ever happen to me was I fell down a hole in the floor in a nightclub one night. All that could be seen was my head sticking out of the floor. It's a dangerous dance floor. The DJ had to stop the music, the house lights were turned on, and 3 bouncers had to help me out. Thank God there was no TikTok or Snapchat in those days.
Or health and safety.
Or health and safety.
What about this
While you're dancing there, don't mind that big hole over there.
I've been in this situation or something similar. Emma Clare. Hi, I turned red when I took my 3-year-old son to a soft play centre and he needed the toilet. He was finishing his business when he said really loud, Mum, what's that smell? I tried to quieten him down to whisper, but children just have no filter. We came out of the cubicle to wash our hands and a middle-aged woman came out of the adjoining cubicle, quickly washed her hands and ran out of the bathroom.
No.
I was mortified.
Oh my God.
And so was the poor woman.
It's gas children, they really just say what they feel. Isn't
Listen,
You've had that.
A few stories of that as well. It is embarrassing.
Brilliant.
Oh, I love that. So share your stories along with your name and address and send it to irelandamcomp@virginmedia.ie and you could be winning those fabulous prizes because we're going to give them away by the end of today's show.
It's the more you tell them to be quiet, the louder they get.
What's that
What are you
smell?
saying? What are you asking me?
Keep those stories coming in, please. Now, coming up next, Social Democrats leader Holly Cairns is joining us.
We'll be hearing her party policies and promises. That's coming up after the break on Ireland AM.
You're very welcome back. Now, with the general election just over a week away, political parties have been outlining their policies ahead of polling day.
Joining us from West Cork this morning is leader of the Social Democrats, Holly Cairns. Holly, thank you so much for joining us today because I think we all know across the country that you were very, very close to your due date. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling good. Thank you so much for having me on and for facilitating doing the interview from Cork Southwest. Yeah, you're right. My due date is tomorrow, so better not to veer too far from CMH at the moment, I think.
Oh my goodness, due date tomorrow. Well, listen, we really appreciate you obviously going through what you're going as well, and you look fantastic. Thank you so much. But it is a busy time, and obviously with the election coming up, just over a week away. Terrible timing, I suppose, from your point of view. How have you dealt with the last few days and trying to get out there and get your message across?
Yeah, it's been a real juggling act, and obviously there's no real template for this. No party leader has been pregnant before, and then I suppose especially during an election time. And, you know, people keep saying to me, and of course I agree, like the baby's the most important thing, and absolutely, you know, she's already being prioritised number one by virtue of doing this interview remotely. But it's not as if something like an election pales into insignificance in that context, because, for example, the outcome of this election will affect her life, it affects everybody's life. So, you know, the two things are really important, and it's, you know, I'd be lying if I said it wasn't unfortunate timing, and if it wasn't a bit of a disadvantage for us in an election period. But we've just been figuring it out day by day. I'm very lucky to have such a supportive party and deputy leader in Cian O'Callaghan. And, you know, the campaign is just honestly going great so far. We're really building on our momentum from the local elections, where we nearly doubled our councillors. We became the second largest party in Dublin City Council, and we're really hoping to build on that in this general election. And what we're really saying to voters is we want to offer something different, a new style of politics, because what we, can see very clearly just in advance of the election is a government trying to buy your vote, trying to buy the election. And now that we're in election mode, they're throwing around promises like they were money a few weeks ago, all to try and win an election. And I think that there's always been an underestimation of the electorate in that sense. Like there's almost this kind of given in Irish politics that people just promise the sun, moon and stars in an election and renege on those promises later.
Well, let's talk about that, Holly, a little bit in relation to what you're doing with the Social Democrats, because, as you've mentioned, an awful lot of money has been thrown around. We do know that, but again, it is a manifesto, so that can kind of happen. But yourself and Labour, you've decided we're not going to cut taxation. You're the party who are like, we're not going to do that, which mightn't be playing well with the electorate. Is there not something in a cost of living crisis where people have to go, you keep on taking and you're not giving back?
I think the thing about the cost of living being so high is that these one-off payments, although like welcome, understandably, of course, in the moment, they evaporate so fast. And to truly bring down the cost of living, we need to invest in those services, in things like healthcare. You know, we're such an outlier in a European context in that we don't have a universal healthcare system, and Ireland doesn't need to be an outlier in that sense, but we've always had governments that don't invest in that way. And what we're saying very clearly is there is another approach. This kind of throwing cash around to see what sticks represents such a missed opportunity by a government with record surpluses. That presents an opportunity to invest in genuinely affordable housing, in disability services, in healthcare, in childcare, in building that model. So we think there's another way, and that the electorate would appreciate a bit more honesty, because what you see is parties promising both, but that's not credible. And we're saying very clearly we would invest in what matters.
Yeah, and you're talking about throwing money out there as well. Listen, you have talked in your manifesto about health. You just mentioned it there. Fully implemented Sláinte care being an absolute deal breaker for the Social Democrats. You're talking about free GP care for all age groups. You see what happens over in the UK with the NHS. It is crumbling due to free healthcare being provided. While this might be good in theory, it's going to cost a huge amount of money, and the shortages of GPs around the country. I mean, there's already over 2,500 GP practices in Ireland that have had to close the doors because they can't take any more people in. So how can free healthcare even, how's it possible?
Yeah, I mean, it feels in Ireland, because we're so used to, for example, paying 50 or 60 euro to see a GP, it feels like some kind of far-flung dream that we would have a free universal healthcare system. But actually, we're a complete outlier in a European context, and we spend more per capita on health than most other countries in Europe. So it's not that the way we're doing things is more cost-effective. And now it would take more kind of upfront costs to get to a place where it costs us less. But that investment can happen now because we have these record surpluses. And Tommy, interesting for your listeners to know, like, we're 7 years, the most frustrating thing about the problems that plague our health service is that there is a solution. There is a costed plan that's tested in other countries our one's called Sláintecare. We're 7 years into what should have been a 10-year plan, and we still are nowhere near achieving our National Health Service. And that is due to a lack of political will. So a deal breaker for us is that there be guaranteed multi-annual funding, that it's not kind of up to the Minister for Finance of the day, up to the Minister for Health of the day. And in terms of specifically, because you raised the issue of GPs, and this is so important, workforce planning is so key in all of this. And it sounds like not very exciting, but it would make a huge impact for our health service if we did properly plan in terms of our workforce. But the GP contract, like the GPs finishing study, they don't necessarily want to go and be a small business owner and set up a practice in a rural area and then not be able to get sick cover, locum cover. So we need to renew our GP contract. We need to have a situation
in relation
where
to all of this,
the
Holly,
state employs GPs and they have all of these normal benefits that most people have.
In all fairness, the amount of money that is thrown in per capita, we put more money into the HSE than any other country in Europe, and the thing is not working, and there has been no reform here. And we've been looking at and I get that, but we've been looking today at the headlines that are coming out of America and the new Commerce Secretary there that is like, we are going to stop this surplus that Ireland has. This should be our money. So if multinationals leave, there is no surplus. We are going to be running at a deficit regardless of how the costings are done for all of your party manifestos. Like, you want to have way more childcare places, you want to have free GP. The fact is, we can't afford this if we lose the multinationals' money.
I think that you make such a good point, and the reality is that's why I think this government's legacy will be one of wasted opportunities, because these record budget surpluses represented an opportunity to invest in those things. So when something like corporation taxes evaporate, if we have a floor beneath which people can't fall below, and the government squandered that opportunity. I think it's important to highlight as well that these fears were raised in 2016 when Trump was elected, and they didn't actually materialise. So we don't know that that will happen. But I think it really highlights the need to invest when we can, instead of having this kind of constant politics for the next election rather than the next generation, and this kind of, just throwing cash around to see what sticks in order to try and get votes. And I think there's a huge cohort of people, what we're hearing on the doors is people would like a new approach. They want a change that they can trust, to a government that will invest in the future. Because what's happening is we have record budget surpluses and 500,000 adults living in their childhood bedrooms, full employment, nearly, and threadbare disability services. It doesn't have to be that way.
From housing, Holly, because we're seeing at the front of the papers as well, the jump in house prices again, the jump in rent prices. In your manifesto, you're talking about 50,000 affordable purchase, 25,000 affordable rentals, 70,000 social homes over the next 5 years. Doing the maths on this, though, it's only up to about 150,000 houses total, which is less than a lot of the other parties. I mean, if we're talking about a housing shortfall, I mean, this is a housing shortfall. Why have you not promised the same amount as what a lot of the other parties feel they can do?
Sorry, Tommy, our target for overall house builds is just as high, if not higher than some, because there's also delivery from the private sector. But what our plan highlights is what we would deliver in terms of key to our manifesto, and an absolute deal breaker for the Social Democrats to go into any government is the delivery of the 50,000 affordable purchase homes. Because yes, supply on the whole is a massive part of addressing this crisis, but at the heart of this crisis is an affordability crisis. So this government delivered less than 1,000 affordable purchase homes. I think it's 988. Our plan is to deliver 50,000 of those. And the way that we would do that, because what happens is if we just have delivery from the private sector, it's not affordable. And that's a huge part of the problem. So we would zone land for affordable housing that would be delivered through the not-for-profit housing agencies, which have shown time and time again that they can actually deliver those homes. We'd provide finance in the early stage of those developments, which isn't happening at the moment, and also fund the local authorities to build those affordable purchase homes as well. Because if we have a steady and larger supply of affordable purchase homes, that's what will help address this crisis.
And of course, there are issues with...
We're saying we want to be very...
There are, Holly, issues with all. I understand that what you're saying with all of these things, but then it's trying to find the staff, the people who are going to work there to do all these sort of things, to supply all these stuffs. And if we don't have private investors on board, we can't get any homes built. But you use the term there, and you've used it a few times, in relation to this. You've also said a full cabinet minister for disability is a deal breaker. You've said that certain things about homes, they're a deal breaker. There's a lot of deal breakers in the Social Democrats' manifesto, and we all know, unfortunately, that governing means compromise. So do you actually want to go into government?
Absolutely. And first of all, just on the construction workers, your listeners don't have to take my word for it. The Construction Federation of Ireland have said that we can deliver that amount of homes, and other research bodies say the same. And yes, so what we're saying is that we have 5 deal breakers. And if those things are not in the programme for government, we won't be. But we don't think these things are basically the bare minimum. So we're saying we need to see the delivery of 50,000 affordable purchase homes, the accelerated implementation of Sláinte Care, credible climate action, building a quality public childcare system, and a senior ministry for disability. So we're saying that's the bare minimum, and we want to be really straight with voters, so you know what is, if that's not in, we're not in. But ultimately, there's loads more that we would drive a really hard bargain for in programme for government negotiations. And what we're saying to your viewers is, we would like the strongest possible mandate to drive all of those things, but we absolutely want to go into government. But we don't want to go into government to make up the numbers. We want to go into government to make a difference.
Okay,
and I think this clear pact with the public.
Some of the government bodies who've been there for the last couple of years, maybe Sláinte Care isn't something that they want, but you wouldn't be willing to go into government with them if it wasn't on your terms. Listen, we have to ask you, thank you so much for joining us as well this morning. Of course, you're going to maybe be at home a little bit more. You're going to be watching television, and I'm a Celebrity is going to be on, so it's quite topical at the minute. If there was another government leader, party leader who you'd do a Bush Tucker trial with, anybody stand out? Who'd be your favourite? Get those stars.
Oh no, I don't know what a Bush Tucker trial is.
Well, you will.
So
you will, Holly. You will. Well,
I respect that.
Who's the government leader, party leader, anyone who you kind of have your closest allegiance to?
God, that's a good question. I don't actually feel a particularly strong allegiance to any of the other leaders of parties, to be honest.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's it.
There you have it.
Leave it at that. Listen, Holly, we know that you've got the baby bag packed. I think it's phenomenal to be doing this.
Absolutely.
Honestly, 50% of the population are out there getting pregnant and trying to do their jobs all the time. It's great to see you, and thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us from Skibbereen this morning.
Can I just say a big shout out as well to Ireland AM for being so accommodating. I think more than most others in terms of making sure that I was included in the leaders' interviews. So thank you very much.
Oh, we really
pleasure.
appreciate it. Absolutely,
Yeah,
really appreciate it, and great to hear from you.
Thanks so much, Holly. Cheers.
Holly Cairns, a leader of the Social Democrats. Great to have you with us, and the best of luck over the coming weeks.
Best of luck. You can hit those notes, can't you? From a spellbinding blockbuster to a wartime adventure. There's lots to watch this weekend.
Yes, casting a critical eye and casting his spell on us this morning is Brian. Good morning to Brian. I take it that you're dressed like that and coloured green. We're going to start with Wicked.
I'm green?
Can you do you did the one from the original Wizard of Oz a minute ago?
No.
Go on.
I'll get you, my pretty, and your little dog too.
Come on.
There you go.
There we go. Thank you so much.
Gladiator last week. I love you so much. Okay.
Thank you, Tommy. Appreciate it.
He is Alphaba this morning. So
Yes.
Wicked.
Wicked.
Tell us about
And
it.
can we really go? Because I don't know anything about this.
Right. So Elphaba is the Wicked Witch of the East. It's essentially like a prequel to Wizard of Oz. It's how Elphaba became the Wicked Witch of the East. She and Glinda the Good are sent to Shiz University. Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's called Shiz.
It's called Shiz.
Okay.
It's called Shiz. Don't,
yeah.
SHIZ, not the other one. But yeah, so they meet in Shiz University, and while they are initially kind of antagonistic to one another, they form a friendship. And as they go through it, they kind of learn more about themselves. There's a whole kind of subplot about authoritarianism in Oz and stuff like that. Jeff Goldblum plays the Wizard of Oz. great casting. So, yeah.
Brilliant.
Let's have a little. I adored this last night. Have a look at this.
The best way to bring folks together
Something has changed within me.
is to give them a real good enemy.
You're green. I am. Something is not the same. Something just takes over me. And when it does, bad things happen.
Once you learn to harness your emotions, the sky's the limit.
Bring her to me.
Don't be afraid. I'm not afraid. It's the wizard who should be afraid of me.
Oh, she's coming for the
Do you know, it's
wizard.
something that makes it seem quite serious, when in actuality, it's very funny.
Oh, it's very funny.
It's actually very, very funny. Like, I mean, what Ariana Grande is playing is essentially this sort of like Mean Girls-esque preppy kind of character and stuff. Like, very, like, over the top. Cynthia Erivo, though, I mean, she's like, takes it really seriously and stuff. And you would think that kind of contrast wouldn't necessarily work, but it does.
It shows the two sides of them
Exactly.
as people, so it is the dichotomy.
Exactly that, yeah.
Okay.
And even how, like, Jeff Goldblum plays it as well. Like, you know, though he's kind of, you know, a little bit sort of kooky and quirky and stuff. Again, it works in context with the whole sort of
it
thing.
does.
Like,
I thought the casting.
The casting is amazing.
And there's one big surprise in it, which I won't give away, which you probably didn't even notice.
No, I didn't clock it.
About two-
Don't give it
there's-
away
there's
if it's a
two-
big
Oh,
surprise.
yes.
Okay, can we not give it away, please?
sorry.
Thank you. Also, we've got Anthony from Bridgerton in this. Jonathan, everyone's been falling in love
Just a
with him.
bit of eye candy in this.
Bit of eye candy. Apparently, he does great dancing.
Yeah.
This is all singing, all dancing, all
100%.
out. What you make of it?
I mean, look, I will, as I said, like, I would say I'm tolerant of musicals. I don't seek them out. No, but you know what I mean? Like, they're grand. I don't really seek them out. They're fine. I mean, I watch them for work or whatever,
Yeah.
but I wouldn't call myself a musical fan at all. I don't think this is going to win over musical
Gotcha.
non-musical fans.
Right.
But that being said, like, the production design, the music, the performances of it, like, Cynthia Erivo is definitely going to get nominated for Best Actress. And I
Okay.
wouldn't
She's
be surprised
incredible.
if she'd win either.
She's amazing in it.
So it's running at 240. I think you're a 3 out of 5. You're a 4 out of 5 for it.
I definitely give it I just love visually.
Yeah.
It is stunning to look at.
Is this part 1?
Yes.
part one.
There's 1 and 2.
Yeah.
The show is. I was going in as well, like going 2 hours 40, part 1 and 2. But I just got.
You got
sucked
kind of
into
get
it.
caught
I got
up
sucked
in it.
into
Can we
it.
do you, who wore it better?
Who wore it
Cynthia
better?
Erivo or Brian
Well, she
Boyd?
clearly won it
Brian,
better.
can
I
you
mean,
look
like,
down?
come on.
Turn that way, Brian. Turn that. There
Yeah,
you go.
there we
Look
go.
at that.
Yeah, no, she got it way better. I mean,
Beautiful. That's gorgeous.
She had a whole team of makeup artists.
we had one person. It was Michelle. You're a trooper.
Okay, we have to go quickly. We've
sorry.
done a lot about Wicked there. We're going to move on to a film I'm really looking forward to. This is called Housewife of the Year. What's this about?
No,
This
well,
is-
we're going. Are we doing Housewives of the Year first?
Yes.
Yes, so Housewife of the Year, it is a documentary. It's about the Callergas Housewife of the Year competition that ran from
Look at this.
1967 until 1995. Gay Byrne obviously hosted it. And what this does is essentially just interview the different people who were involved in the actual competition. And just, it's that thing of, like, you know, women contain multitudes, you know, that sort of way that, like, the lives that they had were completely varied. Like, for example, one woman had 14 children. Another woman, her husband left her shortly after the competition and ran off to Alaska and left the family destitute. Another woman who was in it, her daughter became pregnant out of marriage by a married man. And that whole thing kind of led her to kind of question the sort of traditional role of women in marriage and all the rest of it as a result of it. Like, and yet she was on this competition and was very much like...
Fascinating.
It's absolutely brilliant. Like, it's so...
Like, to come up with that idea in the first place and then to get an amazing documentary out of it.
Yeah, and then to kind of like, it's really kind of like about like a women's social history of Ireland, you know, that sort of way. And just when you think how kind of backward it really, like the whole thing of churching, like, you know, that I didn't even know what that was.
So churching is after you had a baby, you had to be brought back into the church to cleanse you again because you were seen as uncleansed, and that happened in many places in Ireland up until...
I didn't even know that was...
Yes,
yeah, my
mother
mum
was
got that
church.
done, and
Your
I was like,
mother-
I
my
didn't
mother
even
got
know
church.
that
I
was...
didn't know that.
It is Shocking.
Nuts.
Shocking.
Nuts.
My
And
God.
what are you giving this?
4 out of 5. This is brilliant. If you see this in your local cinema, go
Go
see
to
it.
see it.
It's so worth going to see. Yeah.
Love it. Housewife
Now,
of
we
the
were
Year.
talking about Oscar nods, and Saoirse Ronan might be getting an Oscar nod for Blitz.
Blitz, yeah, she plays the young mother of a mixed-race child who is evacuated out of the city to the countryside. He breaks out of his train and runs back to London. So the story is kind of set between her trying to kind of cope with, I suppose, like World War II, and her father, played by Paul Weller, and then her son.
Paul Weller, the singer.
Paul Weller, the singer, yeah. The Jam, yeah, Style Council, Paul Weller. And he's great in it. He's brilliant. Like, he, should have took up acting years ago. Well, I know he was in Quadrophenia.
He did Quadrophenia, yeah.
Yeah, but brilliant actor in this. Saoirse Ronan is probably going to get Best Supporting Actress for this, I would think, because she sings in this.
Sing.
And she's brilliant. She's a great
She's
singer.
a nightclub singer in it.
She was a nightclub singer, but now she's working in a munitions factory.
Yeah.
And it's really just about how kind of lives were put on hold by World War II and how it just really deeply affected it. You know, them Brits love a World War II film. They do crank them out. This is quite, I would say, safe and conventional for the director that did it.
Okay.
Steve McQueen. He did Shame. He did 12 Years a Slave.
Amazing films.
Amazing films. But this is quite conventional. But again, it's
What are
good.
you giving it?
3 out of 5.
3 out of 5,
Okay.
and it's on Apple TV from Friday. The other 2 are in the cinema. Brian Lloyd, thank you so, above and
Can I
beyond
watch this
as
off?
always.
I have a wedding tonight. I have to watch this off.
Go as that.
No.
Just say I'm here as Elphaba.
Da-da-da.
Start singing wicked songs.
Da-da-da. Defying gravity.
Now, coming up, Chef to the Stars, Mark Moriarty joins us right after this break.
Now, our next guest has cooked everywhere from Michelin star restaurants to Melbourne rooftops and, of course, on our television screens.
Yes, Chef Mark Moriarty joins us now to chat about his culinary craft. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
How are you?
How are you?
I mean, you've done an awful lot in such a young age because, I mean, as we were saying, rooftops, cookbooks, awards, Forbes under 30. The person to look out for.
When I was young.
How does something like that happen? Do you get a little heads up going, you're going to be in the magazine, or did just somebody ring you up and go, did you know you're in Forbes?
No, do you know, it was January. We were literally in Dublin Airport about to board a flight to Melbourne to go work there for a year. And I got an Instagram notification from Forbes, and I was like, what is... And I was like, you've been listed on the Forbes under 30. And
Wow.
A lot of pressure, though, I would imagine. On young shoulders, you know, you're a young chef trying to make your way in that land. To be put on something like that, all of a sudden you're on the radar, which it could kind of go one of two ways.
Yeah, I think in hindsight, looking back, I was quite young, but I was like 24 at the time. But you're kind of just powering through it at that age, and you think everything is normal. But you get it for a reason for what you're already doing. So for me, it was just like, great, this is going to offer more opportunity that I can take advantage
And
of.
those reasons were the pop-ups,
Yes.
weren't they? Part of the reason was the pop-ups, which is amazing. Tell us a little about that and what you were doing with them and where you were. Like, because some of them are amazing, like car parks in Russia and stuff like that.
Yeah, it was. Now, that was at a different time. Long story short, I had won the San Pellegrino World Young Chef of the Year, which was, in hindsight, a very big thing. Claire Smith was my mentor, represented UK and Ireland. They gave me a nice plastic trophy, but that was kind of it. And at the time, I was doing pop-ups on my days off in Dublin on Sundays to try and build a bit of a name and to practice how to run a restaurant. And I said, well, you're San Pellegrino or a big, big brand. I was like, I want you to bring my pop-up around the world. I was like, if it was a band, I'd release an album. I'm a chef, I'm going to release a menu, and I want to tour the world with it. And we ended up doing 12 events, 9 months, all across the world, every continent. So as you said, a car park in Moscow to a rooftop in Melbourne, an old colonial house in Charleston, a brewery in Johannesburg, and cooked basically for 3 nights in each.
For a young lad, what an opportunity.
It was wild.
Oh, I can imagine.
I didn't appreciate it enough at the time.
Yeah.
But I would eat in the best restaurants and meet different chefs and go on nights out in all these places. And yeah, you got to see the world.
Just to have the confidence to say to Pellegrino, look at now, I have an idea here. Give me the money. Let's go all over the world and we'll do pop-ups. Yeah, we'll work it out later.
And like, listen, you've worked in some of the top restaurants. You think of Thornton's, Le Crevin, the Greenhouse as well, like Michelin star restaurants. So you're at the high quality chef. Do you see the industry now, though? Is it a difficult industry for people to be going into? Because we hear a lot about restaurants, a lot of opening, but an awful lot closing.
Yeah, you see it. It's in the news at the moment, and obviously general election piece and lots of promises. Even though there was an opportunity to do something last month, and now it's light words. I think I don't have a restaurant myself, but I have a lot of friends. I think you're going to see a lot of really top-end restaurants that are going to charge a lot of money, and then you're going to see. Not lower end, you're going to see mass volume places that maybe do one product or one dish, the likes of a burger joint or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think the problem is in the middle, where you're trying to offer that kind of neighbourhood restaurant vibe, trying to offer decent product at a good price point for people to come back every week. They're struggling and they probably need a little bit of support. But I am positive as things go in cycles that they always come back.
But it's worrying at the moment then, isn't it? And like that is a worry for a lot of restaurants are closing at the moment.
My worry is like it's a big cultural thing. I go to places around the world to eat, to get a sense of the city I'm in.
Yeah.
And I'm worried that they're going to be a sort of high street culture in Ireland for the next few years if something's not done.
Listen, you've done from cookbooks to television shows, you're gone into podcasting as well, Roasted with Mark Moriarty. You've had Leo Varadkar, you've had Brian, like, amazing.
Have you been on it?
No, I've been asked.
Neither have I.
Do you
have you been asked?
Shut up, you. Do you enjoy the interview and the questions? Like, it's different from being in a kitchen.
Very different. Look, it's a very crowded space. We're up against all sorts of podcasters from different spheres. Mine is based around food and the idea of it's a common denominator. No matter who you are in the world, if you're the President of the United States or you're me, you have to get up in the morning, you have to eat. And I think it's a great insight into people's lives. It's questions about, if it's Leo Varadkar, what did you have in your fridge this morning? Or Brian O'Driscoll, like, what do you do? He cooks for his kids. He makes brown bread every morning at 6 a.m.
Brian O'Driscoll makes brown bread every morning at 6 a.m.?
Very healthy, I'd say he does. But Leo Varadkar, remember he had that graphic of what he was having for lunch. Did you pull him up on that?
Yeah, but that's a great insight into whatever about his policies or what people think of him. He was the Taoiseach, and it's like, that's a fascinating lifestyle. And he was talking about, he put up that photo that you see there, and the HSA had to release a statement that night because he didn't have covers on the food. And he goes, that's part of the gig when you're the head of state. Things like this happen.
Exactly. Well, listen, you're going to be hanging around with us for a little while. You're going to be making us something in the kitchen. What are we having?
We're having a little fig tart, almond honey, bit of ice cream.
A fig tart. Well, listen, your new podcast, Roasted with Mark Moriarty, and I believe you have maybe Tubbs coming on next. Oh, very exciting, isn't it?
Well, you're staying with us and we're going to take a quick break. We'll see you in a few minutes.
Now, a quick reminder of our competition. Virgin Media is turning Black Friday red, and to celebrate, they've given us some fantastic prizes.
Now, you could win a 4K smart TV, an Xbox, and a Samsung Galaxy phone every day this week. And someone's going to win it by the end of the show.
To be with a chance of winning, we want to hear the times you turned red and some amazing stories coming in, like Yvonne in Clonmel. Yvonne says, about 30 years ago, I answered my front door to be greeted by an encyclopedia salesman.
Remember them, my God, going around.
Yeah, I was finding it quite difficult to end the conversation as he was incredibly persistent. So I said, I couldn't possibly spend that amount of money, which was 500 quid, without speaking to my husband.
Did she say it like
that? To which she said it exactly.
Possibly.
She said it exactly like that, because that's how it was back then. To which my then 4-year-old daughter piped up, "But Mum, you don't have a husband." Called out by the baby. Go on, Yvonne.
Pauline and Nay said, we had a plumber in our house. He was so rude and disrespectful. I sent a message to my husband saying this bleep bleep has finally arrived, but says he won't be able to sort us out today, and he's a total ignorant bleeper. I sent the message and realised I'd sent it to the plumber. I hid upstairs until he was ready to leave.
He was there in the house, sickener.
And you're like, is he going to break it even more?
Adele said, I was getting a lift to a function one evening. I was running a bit late, left the car and ran down the hill to get into the car. Left the house. Sorry, ran downhill, got to the car. The car was parked across the road, so I flung open the door, hopped in, gave my apologies, put on the seatbelt and realised there was a child sitting in the back seat and a man who I didn't know at the wheel. There was total shock and embarrassment of mine. Had to scramble out of the car apologising. My lift arrived and I waved, driving past.
Waved, beep. Beep and wave. How about Anne-Marie and Leash? I was pulled over by two guards. One was middle-aged, one was young. It was about 20 years ago. It was 3 a.m. in Dublin. I wasn't drinking, but my friend had had a few. She suddenly started rocking to and fro in the passenger seat.
You're doing all the actions, you know, show us how the rocking motion.
Making painful moaning sounds. We all turned to look at her, wondering what in God's name is happening. She said, "Sorry, guard, it's my fault. I told her to go quick as I have to go for a poo." I had to keep a straight face like, yes, I knew that, guard. This is what's happening. So one guard burst out laughing and they just let us go on through. To be fair, well done for taking one for the team, the friend of that one.
They were the days and the guards go on, to your grad.
Yeah, go on, to your grad. Doesn't happen anymore.
Now, look, share your story along with your name and your address and send it to irelandamcomp@virginmedia.ie. Very best of luck. And remember, keep them coming in, get them in quickly because somebody is going to win by the end of the show, so another 40 minutes or so.
There you have it.
Absolutely. Now, coming up after the break, Simon Delaney joins us.
Oh, we're looking forward to chatting to him. He's going to be telling us all about his new foray into fiction. That's coming up next.
Welcome back. He has grace sets alongside some of Hollywood's biggest A-listers. But you know what? We'd like to think Simon Delaney feels most at home back here on this couch that he has fallen asleep on so many times.
Of course, the biggest A-listers to us, and we're thanking you for joining us as well, Simon.
It's my pleasure.
Here to talk about your new book, Watching Over You. But yeah, how does it feel to be back in?
I love what you've done with the place.
We got rid of a step.
Well, there was a step.
Yeah, what happened to the step? I think I fell down it too many times. So it had to be removed.
It was health and safety
purposes.
They were like
poor people.
The migraine-inducing floor is fabulous.
Yeah, that's still there.
Yes.
We're not allowed to talk about the floor anymore. Come on, let's talk about you being.
Yes.
Let's talk about you being an author.
Well, listen, who'd have thunk it?
Simon, honestly, Watching Over You. Tell us about this book.
So the book is about. It centres around a collection of 6 paintings that were stolen during a raid in Paris in 1942, which was obviously right at the start of World War II. And the book follows the journey of the 6 paintings, and it follows 2 families who are both interested in getting those paintings back together for very different reasons. So it's kind of an art caper, an art crime caper.
Fictional, obviously. Something when they say about writing a book, it's kind of write what you know. Obviously, this is World War II. But you do have a link. Your grandfather, was he involved in World War I?
My grandfather fought in World War I, so I've always had that kind of interest in World War I, World War II. Knew very little about what he did in the war, and my own father knew very little. My dad passed away when I was only 25, so he never found out an awful lot about what he did in the war. But then when I did Who Do You Think You Are, we were able to uncover his entire his service record from 1914 to 1918. And there was an incredible story about us having a photograph of my granddad with a row of medals and a very stiff photograph. And I remember saying to my late father, "What are the medals for?" My father said, "Well, I never saw them. I never had them. I don't know what they're for." But through Who Do You Think You Are, we were able to find out.
That's been amazing.
Amazing. And the bizarre thing is, a year after Who Do You Think You Are went out, the military historian that told me about my grandfather's medals rang me and said, "I've just been in Longford at a house clearance sale and I bought 2 boxes of World War memorabilia, bullets and belts." And he said, "I found your grandfather's medals."
No.
Wow.
No.
Like if you wrote it in a movie or in a book, people wouldn't believe it. He said, I dumped all the stuff out on the table, this guy, and he said, "God," he said, "the last time I saw those 4 medals in that row on a bar like that was when I did Simon Delaney's grand." He said, "They can't be." And he turned the medal over, T. Delaney and his number. So I have the medals. My father never had them.
Wow. And
I have them.
It's so interesting that your dad never did, because we all know that so many of the soldiers were so traumatised after World War One.
100%.
The shell shock that was PTSD as we know it now, that they just had to completely shut down and not talk to their families.
When my grandfather came back, he was one of the founding members of the British Legion in Ireland, which was the organisation that helped the widows and of the soldiers who never came back because they got no help from.
They got nothing from.
So I always had an interest in that in World War, and then I've always been interested in kind of Hitler's lost gold, stolen gold, and the work that's still the works of art that are still missing out there. I've always loved that kind of stuff.
Very interesting, and of course, because you've secured the filming rights for it. Obviously, if it goes to me, you made a movie. You're also doing the audiobook at the minute.
Yeah, which is a real joy, Tommy. I'm having such a ball doing that. Yeah, I'm on day 6 of the audiobook. Which is just a totally different process altogether. I've never done one before.
Now, hold on.
You're doing all the accents, because obviously you are an actor, so this is kind of...
Well, there's someone in here called Michel Delarue, Alain Deschamps, Fabian Ritzer, Lorenzo Peters.
Well, you're not doing the audiobook, Simon is.
Yeah.
Just saying, do you go with the...
I don't, no, but there are a lot of the book is set, because there's multiple timelines. It's set in modern times, but we jump back to Paris in the 40s, we go to London in the 60s. So there's lots of French street names. So I try and get them correct, like Rue de Rosier or whatever it is.
Very nice.
Yeah, I don't know what that means, but it sounds great, I think I've just ordered something on a menu somewhere. Yeah. So I'm not doing the voices, Tommy. No, definitely not.
Un Coca-Cola.
S'il vous plaît. Oh, dear.
Like, where did this come from? Like, we know you as you direct things. You're obviously an actor. You're a TV presenter. You're a chef.
Radio presenter.
We're radio presenter on Lyric Now. Where did the book come
Wirring came... I had originally written that as a screenplay, a movie screenplay, and I wrote a 2-page treatment about 10 years ago and kind of left it. I have lots of that on my desktop, lots of stuff you start and leave. And then during COVID, I thought, well, I might find that and I'll write out the full screenplay. So I started writing the screenplay, but then I realised it was a bigger story, and I thought, I wonder, is it a novel? Could I write a novel? And 6 weeks later, I'd written 125,000 words. It was done. And then I thought, well, what do I do with it now? So I spent 1.5 years in editing it. Then I had to get a literary agent, which took 1 year, and then another 2 years to get a publishing deal. And I remember sitting where you guys are, interviewing authors. And one thing always stuck with me, they would say, yeah, by the time I got the book published, I had the second one written. And I would just always say, oh, that can't take that long. Oh, it does.
Right, so you've got the second one done.
I'm halfway through the second book.
Get out.
Yeah, which is totally different, but yeah.
You did have to, with the second book, you kind of had... You could have had it done by now, but you've been quite busy. You've been very busy.
Yeah, it has been a busy year. It's great. Yeah.
Yeah, so let's look at what you've been up to.
Let's just go back and look at the facts here, shall we?
So you've just finished up filming Young Sherlock, which is Guy Ritchie's new series.
For Amazon, yeah.
For Amazon.
Yeah.
What are you doing in that?
I play Detective Fidget from Scotland Yard.
Oh.
It was not a comedy character at all. Yeah, so that's a hero finds us in that. Max Irons, Colin Firth is in it, who I worked with earlier this year as well.
You did.
Sorry, we're going to get to that.
Yeah,
Hold on.
we have that.
So it's 8 hours for Amazon. Yes.
What's it like being on a Ritchie film set?
It's quite different. Yeah, it's quite different. There are other verbs I could use, but I'll use different.
Do you have to wear a flat cap?
No, it's all a bit. All right, mate. Yeah, how are you? All right, you stand over there. All right, Governor. Lovely. Thank you, sir. It's all very governor and sir. It's great.
Very English in the 1940s.
Correct. It was great. Great experience. So I only wrapped on that.
Where was that? Where's that filmed?
All around South Wales, and then Monmouth, Chepstow. We were in Cheltenham, all over the place in the UK. Yeah.
Because, of course, you've been in with, is it Lockerbie as well with Colin Firth?
Lockerbie, The Search for Truth, yeah. That's a 6-part series that starts on the 2nd of January on Sky Atlantic.
Blue Moon with Ethan Hawke, Andrew Scott.
Yes.
I mean, are you ever home?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Quite often, at least I would say, maybe too often. I am, yeah. But sure, look, I did the movie with Ethan Hawke and Andrew Scott this summer. But that was only 2 weeks.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Right, okay.
That's a Richard Linklater movie.
Yeah, School of Rock director. Yeah.
So can you tell us about that? What's going on there?
So it's set on the 31st of March 1943, which I'm sure you remember, Tommy.
Remember well.
It was the opening night of Oklahoma on Broadway. And the movie takes place in Sardi's Restaurant, which is the famous Broadway theatre restaurant. And it's the after-show party of Oklahoma. And Andrew Scott and myself play Rodgers and Hammerstein, who wrote Oklahoma. And Ethan Hawke plays Lorenz Hart, Larry Hart, who was originally Richard Rodgers' writing partner. But when he did Oklahoma, he got rid of Larry Hart because he was fed up with his work methods.
Yeah.
And he hired Oscar Hammerstein. So the movie takes place in the 90 minutes of the opening night of Oklahoma in 1940. It's fabulous.
You and Andrew Scott are Rogers and Hammerstein.
I know. And the first musical I ever did, back in 1970, was Oklahoma. And now I've ended up playing Oklahoma.
Where the wind comes sweeping down the rain and the waves and we...
Should have got you to the audiobook.
Do you have a favourite? Are you enjoying the writing?
I love the writing.
Do you prefer... Is acting...
Oh yeah, well I mean acting, you're at home when you're. I feel at home when I'm acting, you know. But sure, look, I always enjoy the job that I'm doing at the moment. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, but these are big ones that you're
Amazing.
doing.
But listen, last year I didn't work for 7 months because of the writer's strike and the actor's strike.
Of course.
Okay.
So there was 7 months when nothing was happening.
Yeah,
and that's
yeah,
and
yeah.
people don't see that side of the business.
But it sounds like with Blue Moon now, a lot of red carpets coming up. Oscar Wilde party, LA Oscars.
Well, Oscars. Oh no, my nerves. We'll see. I don't know. Listen, we'll wait and see what next year
We'll wait
brings.
and see.
We all will wait and see.
Yes,
Look
we will.
forward to it and see. Watching Over You, it is your new book. It is out available now. The audio book will be out very shortly.
Soon, yeah. As I finish it today in the studio.
I look forward
What did Tommy
to
say to you
hearing
when he
it.
came in? The writing's very small, Simon.
The writing's very small, he says.
There's no pictures.
Only moles and bats can read the book. But apparently,
Simon,
I'll do a pop-up one the next time.
a pleasure.
Cater for all
Pleasure as
audiences.
So
always.
good to see you.
Thank
so
you,
good to see
Simon.
you. Up next, Green and Pink Glam to get you kitted out for the Wicked movie.
There you have it. And we're also talking cookbooks and cuisine with award-winning chef Mark Moriarty.
Now, yeah, he's back and he's ready to impress us with his culinary skills.
Chef Mark Moriarty is here with a delectable fig tart.
Thanks for staying
Supposedly.
with us, Mark.
Tell us about your second cookbook as well. You've got that coming out too.
Yeah, we've got the follow-up to Flavour, which is the first one, is Season. So out now, Christmas is coming.
Oh, good. The perfect
Lovely.
time to buy a cookbook.
And I
Perfect
presume
timing.
seasons means it's about winter and the different seasons?
Yeah,
or?
it's the two things. Look, it's simple ingredients that everyone's going to have. A lot of dishes people are already making, but we're
Okay.
trying to bring sort of that flair from the restaurant kitchen and make your life a little easier.
Okay.
But it's split over 5 chapters. We've got the 4 seasons. And we've also got the basics range at the beginning.
Okay.
All my books, all the cookbooks have to have, and the TV shows, the kind of the basics as you're going. So it starts off with brown bread and how to poach an egg, all the way up to what you're going to eat here.
The perfect poached egg.
Oh, I love
It's
that.
always the thing, isn't
That
it?
is-
How do you make the perfect poached egg?
Is this a basic, what we're having today? The
No,
pig
no,
tart?
They call this
is
basic
no.
now.
This
No.
is not the place for basics range. This
Okay,
is
so
right.
What
little
have you
more
put
market.
in there now?
So I'm going to make, this is kind of a tart I'd make this time of year and simple to make at home. So literally what I'm doing is a little bit of almond paste. And then in here I have a little bit of really nice puff pastry.
Okay.
So I just buy nice puff pastry in the supermarket.
yeah.
I love
what
the
I've-
fact that you don't try and make your own as well. It's just as good to buy it, isn't
You
it,
do, you do
sometimes?
not want to be making puff pastry at home, let me tell you.
yeah.
Particularly at the weekend when you have limited amount of time.
Absolute
So what I do
chaos.
is we have our puff pastry, we make a little bit of an almond paste here, and then we have some seasonal fruit. So in this
what's
case,
gone
I'm using
into
figs. So I've creamed up some sugar and some butter, and then I've added some ground almonds in there, and we just mix that together till it's nice and soft. You can add a little bit of vanilla extract in here if you wanted. And then just to bring it together ever so slightly, I add a little pinch of just some plain flour and a little bit of honey. So again, if you think of like, I was thinking it was Ireland AM, breakfast things, you would have like figs, yogurt, granola, honey, sort of almonds. So they're all those sort of ingredients, but brought into sort of the idea of a dessert.
Okay.
So that goes in there, a little bit of honey.
And tell me, listen, you have a little 6-week-old at home as well at the minute, so it's all a bit chaotic, I'd say, trying to do cook and cookbooks and podcasts and whatever else. You are up the walls.
Pretty busy, yeah. And we filmed the Christmas TV special as well a couple of days after. So I don't
is
even.
It Lily is the name?
Little Lily, yeah.
Lily, 6
very
weeks.
good.
Are you sleeping?
Our firstborn. Well, I don't sleep anyway, and it certainly helps to be doing the morning show here.
Just come in every week. We're fine. Come in every week.
Delighted to have
If
you.
you're not sleeping.
So yeah, I was able to prep all this in the middle of the night in between feeding. Yeah.
Good on you. Well done. Congratulations.
Yeah.
So
you're putting this just on the puff pastry.
Yeah. So again,
So you don't use it all.
No, well, I've make a little bit extra. This is for sort of a small tart, and you can see the sort of texture there is perfect just to just about spread it with a spoon. And again, there's nothing fancy here because we're going to cover this up. So you could, if you were making this at Christmas, it'd be lovely at Christmas. I would have all this done in advance. I would have the tart pretty much layered up like I did coming in here.
Oh, right. So it's just in the middle. You're not trying to get it out to the edges,
No, so because it's puff pastry is layered. So the idea is when it goes into the oven, it's going to rise up.
So how soon could I do this? Could I do this in, say, the 22nd, 23rd?
Way in advance.
Oh, really?
Way in advance.
And what, just put them in the fridge?
Yeah, just have it ready to go in the fridge. I didn't have any space in the fridge last night for the one I prepared earlier, so I put it in the shed.
All right,
It's
well,
great
same thing at this time of year, yeah.
Great this time of year, lovely 4 or 5 degrees.
Perfect, yeah.
And then I'm using figs. So
I
figs.
don't think I've ever put figs in anything I've ever cooked.
Me
Really?
neither.
Have you? I never cooked once.
Well, have you had the fig rolls?
Yes.
Oh, the old
I've
fig
never
rolls.
made them, though.
I've never made them.
So is this how you put the figs
Fig
inside
rolls
the
are
fig
basically
rolls?
biscuits made with figs and almond. So this is a kind of a fancy Michelin-starred version, as you say, of what that would be. So I literally just layered them up. You could have all this done in advance.
Now look at you even. I was going to say, look at that. If I'd have layered that up, it wouldn't look anything like that.
Yeah, but
that looks so fancy.
But I couldn't present like you. It's like, this is my job.
You're working on it, you're working on it.
So then what I do is just a little bit of honey on top, because to make it nice and sugary.
And would this be for a couple of people with this? Or, you know,
Tommy, you'd eat that on yourself.
This is for a normal 4 people, or if it's myself or yourself, Tommy, it's for
But if
one.
I'm kind of thinking for Christmas, when would you eat this as a start or no, a dessert?
No, dessert, yeah.
Dessert.
Yeah, you can make a massive one. The recipe remains the same. It's from the book.
Okay.
You can make a massive one. You can make little individual ones. The recipe remains the same.
Now, how long would that go into the oven for?
So it's going to go in for about 15 minutes. Now, the key point with any of this pastry is you need to have a preheated tray. Otherwise, you're going to have a soggy base. So in the restaurant kitchen, we would have cast iron trays that would be in the oven for about half an hour at 200 degrees, getting really roaring hot. So it's going to cook that pastry from the base up.
And would that honey not burn quicker than the 15 minutes? Oh, it wouldn't?
No, that's going to glaze nice on top of the fruit. They're going to cook down. Here's my Jamie Oliver moment, the one I prepared earlier. Yeah.
Have a look.
So 15 minutes later, comes out of the oven. And you can see there. So the figs have cooked down.
The way the pastry is after coming up.
So it's puffed up around the sides, really, really nice. So this is starting to look a little restaurant-y.
Yeah. And so the actual paste and the thing is just keeping the rest of it from popping up.
Exactly, and it's holding it down. And what happens is the figs are actually quite jammy and liquidy.
Yeah.
So what would normally happen is the liquid would come out and it would make the bottom of the pastry soggy. But because we've added our almond paste, that cooks out and it soaks up all that lovely sort of fig.
Okay. And because we see sometimes with the puff pastry, you kind of prick it at the bottom as well to stop it rising. You don't need to do that.
You don't need to do that with this
stuff
because there's so much weight holding it down.
Yeah,
It pretty much does the same job. And you can see there, it kind of almost hugs it around the edge.
Yeah.
Looks lovely. So then a little bit of extra honey on top just to glaze it up. Now we're starting to look like we're in a French brasserie.
Fancy.
Certainly do.
And then we're going to serve it up. So we take it off our parchment. And what you'll see is, well, hopefully you can...
And can I ask you,
Look
would
at
you
the
always
different layers on it,
Would you always make it just that size, or could you make a bigger one, or would you prefer to make 2 of the smaller ones?
I would probably make 2 of the smaller ones, just to make sure that your cooking time is always the same.
And with the puff pastry as well.
And then what we do is we pretend we're in the restaurant, so this is where we start to charge a bit of money. So and you can see there as I cut through that
how cooked at the bottom it is.
So it's lovely and cooked at the bottom, nice and crispy, nice and jammy.
It's after soaking through.
It's after soaking through. And then hopefully this will be the right texture. So just a little bit of vanilla ice cream.
Oh, wow.
And what I do is...
Oh, this is great. So this is a half each for us.
There you go.
No, I think we're sharing this one.
No.
I'm going to serve both of them on the other side.
Oh, right.
So then we do our little fancy restaurant thing. We have our nice spoon.
Okay.
Straight on top with our vanilla ice cream if it comes off.
Oh, look at
that.
There you have your fig,
gorgeous.
honey, almond tart.
Lads,
nice puff
let them get a shot at that.
Very
that
good.
Looks
here, I'll serve up the other one while I'm here.
Yeah.
Good man. Fair play. And so this is in your new cookbook?
This is in the new cookbook. It kind of sums up what the cookbook is about, which is, that looks like a nice little sort of restaurant-style dessert that you would get. But again, really simple ingredients. So people will probably have a bit of honey, a bit of flour.
Give us the knife there and we cut it up here.
Does it have Christmas dinner by any chance?
It has Christmas dinner, so you have your turkey crown in there, your ham.
Lovely.
It has all your basics range. It's up for Cookbook of the Year next week. I'm finally
is it?
Oh, wow.
We're going to have a bit of a night out in the convention centre. But again, restaurant style sort of dish, but really easy to recreate at home and
It was delicious, Mark. Thank you so much for that.
And best of luck with the new podcast as well.
Yeah.
Good on
Very
you.
much,
Cheers. Thank you.
Now, coming up next, we're taking the styles of Wicked and we're putting them on our catwalk.
As Wicked hits cinemas this weekend, we're taking style inspiration from the leading witches.
Who were the leading witches?
He's gone mad because I don't know how to pronounce
Elphaba and Glinda, but it's Galinda, but then she calls herself Glinda. Anyway, taking inspiration from Glinda's Buddy Pinks and Elphaba's Edgy Green is stylist Lorna Waitman. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
But first, let's look at those spellbinding looks.
3, 2, 1, action.
I know I'm about popular, and with an assist from me to be who you'll be instead of dreary who you were, well, are. There's nothing that can stop you from becoming popular, just not quite as popular as me.
Love it.
There they are, having a lovely time. That green outfit has been my outfit of the year, I think, on Cynthia Erivo. Lorna, how are you, darling?
Very
Lovely.
well,
So we're
thanks.
doing pink and green for Wicked.
We're doing pink and green for Wicked. And also, I think from the research I've done, you're like, pink and green, how does that go together? Like, how would you wear that together? But actually, looking at the red carpet looks, the two outfits have just been so synchronised and they've looked so well that you kind of go, oh, actually, maybe I can make that work.
And only you could. Let's have a look anyway.
Thanks, Alan.
Our first look is Hannah, is it?
Hannah's it. And now this is like, we're starting with something very simple. Pop on really good green. So like the green we know from Elphaba is quite a standout green.
Yeah.
It's almost like that brat green
Yeah.
that we had during the summer. This one we're taking it a little bit darker because when we get to this time of the year, all of those shades just start, the hues start to get a little bit darker and darker. And I love satin in an emerald green. I think this is almost like taking inspiration from Oz as well.
And a jumpsuit.
It's a jumpsuit and the fabric in this is so beautiful. But when you have a fabric like this that takes on light, it shines really beautifully. This one has subtle details that make it, give it structure, even though it's a very light fabric. So you'll notice it's got the collar, button down.
Gorgeous, lovely things
Isn't it?
drawing the waist.
Drawing the waist, exactly.
And then as we go down to the shoes here, I tried to get these last week and they were all sold out. They're fantastic.
I have them. They're here. They are so good. And they're like the Prada-inspired look from Pennies. And they actually, the cold tone of silver works really beautiful with this emerald green. And also you'll notice just the gap between the end of the jumpsuit and the shoe. It's because the bottom of the jumpsuit is elasticated. So you can have that longer or higher, whatever way you want to wear it, which I love as well.
The pink in with the bag.
The pink, yes. We've gone kind of lighter pink, so this is a very kind of Glinda pink.
Yeah.
But what I love about it is that, so if you think about it, pink is actually just a derivative of red, really. So you're just getting lighter and lighter and lighter. And we always put red and green at this time of the year. So it's still the same colour combination, it's just a lighter shade.
I love that bag.
So isn't it lovely? And it does come in some other colours as well if you didn't want to go down the pink. And that's all from Vavavoom.
Katie.
Katie is going very whimsical with this. And I do love, as we've spoken about before, the knit kind of dressy skirt combination with texture differences. But also, this one is, we're taking the pretty element of Glinda with this look. The cardi is great, and they're actually, what we've done is wearing it like a jumper. So it gives that kind of like really nice pop-on effect, which I will say over and over again, it's so handy to have in your wardrobe. And this is from Friday's edit. And it has all of these kind of lace details, the pearls, so loads of kind of feminine kind of touches on
And
this.
then kind of clashing with the skirt.
The skirt is like tulle and it's tiered. And actually the print in the skirt are tiny little gold stars.
Yeah.
So we've got that lovely kind of mythical kind of tribute built into this. So it's a very, very pretty, I think it's a very youthful look as well. But tulle is really having a moment, and this one's from On Trend. Yeah, it really has come back massively this season. And also making it a bit more casual by putting it with knits rather than something really dressy, which I love. And I love an ankle boot with a mid-length skirt because it just shows you another way you can wear your ankle boots. It doesn't have to be with trousers all the time. And you can see the kind of proportion with these. These are from Dune, and they're also kind of a suede. So suede just has a dressier feel to it as well.
Your jewellery that you've put with this?
So the jewellery,
is that the one, or is that?
It is the one, and actually
right.
it's a really special necklace because it's actually Wicked licensed product from Pennies. So we've got so it says, it has a little K for Katie. I gave her her own personalised one.
Aww.
It says Wicked, and there's a little witch's hat on it as well. So we've kind of made a little accessories tribute to it this morning. morning
the
as well.
bag.
And then the bag, we've just got to go kind of pink with this one as well. So a little bit of glittery kind of feel to this with the sequin on it too. But also, if you're wearing something casual, a bag like this will just transform your outfit over Christmas.
Yeah,
and this one is from
absolutely.
Baloo Clothing.
Go with so much.
Thanks
Gorgeous.
so
Thanks,
much,
Katie.
Yumiko.
Yumiko's, and we got a little bit of a glimpse of this earlier on. And what I love about this is kind of what I'm kind of going with as my festive uniform almost for this year. So really dressy jacket, really lovely kind of dressy trouser, but not with denim, like a leather or a velvet is a really lovely combination with this.
There's so much of green glitz like this
Isn't it?
at the premiere last night.
And this, you can really go for this. I think with this jacket as well, I've actually just put a little pin in this jacket to make it look like a top. So if you wanted to wear it open, you could. It is a blazer, yeah. So you can wear something underneath it. So I just wanted to give it. The sleeves are all just pushed up, So they come full length as well. So just to give it a little bit of styling element.
And if you're buying sequins, wear them for ages, guys.
Wear them for ages.
Because, you know, there's an environmental impact. So if you're buying them, wear them loads. It'd be great.
Exactly. And you don't just have to keep them for the winter time.
Leather trousers.
These are leatherette trousers, which are lovely. There's a little cut off on them as well. So they're about a 7/8 kind of length trouser. There's a wider fit to these as well. So really comfortable, and they're lovely and soft on the inside as well, which are great. These are beautiful, and these are from River Island. And I think they work really well with the trousers from On Trend. The bow is amazing, isn't it? So you can get really kind of statement.
Like an off-centre bow.
It is, yeah. And I love that you can wear these kind of things with lots of different elements that you might already have in your wardrobe. And then just a little black bag to show the black-green combination that we're taking inspiration from today as well. And we've got little kind of diamondy kind of rings there just from Pennies as well. So you can stack them all together. And they come as a pack of 2, so you can actually just have loads of fun with your accessories. Yeah, exactly.
Thank you so much. That's lovely. Thank you so much. And then Hannah's back with us.
Back to Hannah. So Hannah's got something, a look I really, really love. And this is where you go with a really dark palette and you just show a glimpse of another colour. Okay. So we've got this.
Is that what you're doing here? I thought she's going to whip it open.
No, she won't do that. No, definitely not. So this is a really oversized blazer today from Vavavoom, and I've just closed it over. It's double-breasted. And it is actually quite oversized. So if you wanted a smaller fit, you can just size down in it. But it's a lovely sloping shoulder. Kind of, it's got a bit of a plunging neckline on it as well. And you can see it's just got lots of fabric. So the key with this is to cinch anything else down. So fitted skirt, fitted trousers. You just see the little mini skirt underneath it, which is pink sequin. So you'll just see that peeping out. Because when it is a bit sexy, and also when you move, this is the thing. When you move, you will see it because the jacket will open and you'll get this kind of like pop of all of that sparkle, which I love. And actually, I love this kind of look with black tights because especially with a mini, you may not want to tan your legs or wear kind of skin color tights. So black opaque tights work really, really well. And then they blend really nicely into an ankle boot. And ultimately, that makes your legs look longer. So if you want to elongate, that is the way to do it. So it's kind of the edgier side of Wicked inspiration for our fashion today.
Lovely.
Fabulous.
Gorgeous looks as always, Lorna Waitman. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Our Wicked day. Now it's over to Tommy to find out about today's competition winner.
Thank you very much, guys. We're giving away a telly, an Xbox and an iPhone every day this week. And today's winner is Denise from Trim. Here is her embarrassing story. I was going on holiday and had gotten out of the taxi at Dublin Airport when I noticed a few weird stares. I didn't think too much about it until a whole group of lads turned around to look at me. I was a little bit flattered until I realised that I'd caught my trousers on something getting out of the taxi. The whole backside had ripped out of my trousers. I'd been walking around the whole airport like that. Thank God I hadn't checked in yet and could get a change of clothes out of my suitcase. There you have it.
Who's the winner?
Denise from Trim. Denise, thank you so much for sending in your text messages on that.
Make sure you tune in tomorrow for the last chance to win. And on Friday's show, best-selling author of The Boy in the Striped Pyjamas, John Boyne, will be here.
The Irish star of the new Wicked movie brings us behind the scenes of the biggest film of the year.
Of course, plus your food, fashion and the news you're waking up to. Join us for Ireland Dame live from 7 tomorrow morning.
See you back here on Monday. Bye-bye.